Cool.
Yeah.
Picked off Polamalu. Ball is scooped up. Caught. Antonio Brown. And the Ravens have won it. Ray Lewis. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. It's caught for the touchdown. And the latest chapter in this rivalry belongs to... And 6 Ravens come. Then got rid of it. Caught. It's Antonio Holmes. Touchdown. Pressure back on Flacco in the Baltimore offense. Can't fall out, it's live. It's recovered and untouched with his foot. Sometimes it's tough. Snap good, hold good, hit, good. Steelers win by that much. 3rd and goal from the 4. First option, shut down. Looking for a second, a 3rd option. Now throws it.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Sports Talk with Chris Heidel here on a beautiful, not beautiful December night. It's cold and rainy wherever you are. You know, on December 6th, 2022. A big show here tonight. It is Ravens Steelers week here in Baltimore. We will talk about that coming up tonight here on the program. We have Jamie Costello from News Channel 2 here in Baltimore, and we'll talk Ravens football with him. And then I had an interview with Max Starks, former Gator, who played for the Steelers back in 2004, who's part of the radio network. I had a privilege to speak to him last night. We'll play his interview later in the show. Well, we'll start off with the show with this gentleman. He's the head coach of Robin Moore's football team up in beautiful Pittsburgh. But the reason we have him on, he just got inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame because he was a member of one of the greatest teams of college football back in the late 80s, 1988, with the Orange Bowl with the Miami Hurricanes. So let's bring in Coach Clark here. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How you guys doing? Appreciate you having me on.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
congratulations on being inducted in the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. And I was telling my brother last night, you were coming on. My brother's a big Miami Hurricane fan. I said, yeah, Bernard Clark's coming on. He goes, oh, he was a beast.
I appreciate that, man. It's extremely humbling, to be totally honest with you. When they called me mid-year, and I needed some good news this year during our year, and they called me, they asked me if I wanted to be inducted. I was like, absolutely. Probably the most humbling thing that's happened to me in my life, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So just talk about that phone call. How did you get the phone call right after the end of the regular season? And I know you didn't have a great year, and you're like, who's this guy on the phone? Who's calling me to answer something? Yeah.
Actually, the weird thing is probably after the 5th game, we were 0-5 at the time, and our director of football operations, her name is Maggie, and Maggie said, hey, Coach, the Orange Bowl committee called you. I'm like, oh, please, the Orange Bowl. I told my wife, I said, all right, I'm going to call. It's probably a joke. I don't feel like having jokes right about that. We're not doing well. It's not something I want to be involved in, but I gave him a call back. And the guy's name was Godwin Harper Jr., and he was like, yeah, Coach, we want to induct you into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. Would you accept the induction? I was like, will I accept the induction? I said, absolutely, I'll accept the induction. So it was a real exciting time. Like, I came at the right moment, at the right time. And so it's an honor to do this thing and be accepted to the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. So I found a clip of you. I think you picked off, I think it's Notre Dame. Yeah.
All right, don't show when I get caught.
Look at that. Blazing speed there, Coach. That's a good speed there.
At least I got ran down by a first-round draft pick. Derek Brown was a first-round draft pick to the Giants, so at least I got caught by Derek. So it's one of those situations. That was one of the special moments in the Orange Bowl, not the '88 Orange Bowl game, but in the Orange Bowl. We had a lot of special moments there at the University of Miami at that stadium at that time, and that was like a great place for us. And a crazy story, to be totally honest with you. When they finally shut the Orange Bowl down, when they're getting ready to shut it down, I was a coach at FIU at the time. So as a matter of fact, that year we went 1-11. We won our last game against North Texas. And I remember going to the end zone. I had a knife and I cut a piece of the turf out and I put it in a bag, and now it's framed in a picture at home. My stuff is in storage in Florida, but it's framed in a picture at home. The Orange Bowl was a special place for us. So me to be inducted to the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame really means a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like Miami's trying to find that home field advantage. Yeah, because I really think Hard Rock Cafe Stadium is too far away from the campus. And if you're a college kid, you really want to be on the bus for 2 hours.
Well, that's a tough thing about it. And the problem is, and you're on the bus for 2 hours, probably when you get there. That's the problem. So it's a situation where you're drinking too much on that daggum bus trying to get to the stadium. So I think what they're trying to do, and what Mario is doing a good job of, he's trying to find their identity. For so many years, people said, have they gotten back to the U? Have they gotten back to the U? And Mario said the perfect thing. When people said, is the U back? He said, yeah, we're back to work. Understand there's a lot of work you got to do in order to put yourself in that position to win games. And let's stop talking about what they used to do. Let's talk about what they need to do in order to be a good football team again.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your team. What do you guys need to do to become a better team? Just like, let's say, what Mario has to do with Miami. What do you have to do to get better?
Well, I think the toughest thing with us, and I'll be totally honest with you, when we lost that first game against Dayton, I thought that we'd find our mojo. I thought we'd kick it back in, and it never happened. So the most important thing right now is for me to hold everyone accountable. I'm talking about coaches. I'm talking about players. I'm talking about strength and conditioning guys. I'm talking about equipment managers. I'm talking about trainers. We need to all be on the same page. I think at some point last year we fell off the same page, and we're joining a new conference. When I first got there, we were playing in the NEC. The NEC's conference is not as tough a competition as it is in the Big South. And in the new conference, we're filling our way, and we just didn't fill our way good this year. So we got to add some pieces to the puzzle. The toughest thing is when we got injury bug really plagued us this year. At the last 4 games of the year, Chris, to be totally honest with you, we had 3 redshirt freshmen, 1 true freshman, and 1 redshirt sophomore. That was our starting offensive line the last 4 games of the year. And so when we get our injury, we just didn't have that replacement. So the biggest thing for us right now, we got to find some offensive linemen and some defensive linemen up front so we can move the pile and get that 4th and 1 we really needed. So need some more continuity. We got to get stronger as a team, and we got to get together as a team. And the thing we're really starting right now, we're going to start a culture called push and pull. We're going to push guys to get better in the classroom. We're going to push guys to get better on the field. We're going to push guys, the team, to push themselves in the weight room. And if you're doing something wrong, we're going to pull you away from it. So we're going to start a push and pull culture that we really want to grow on.
That's awesome. Adam, you got a question?
Yeah. Now, first of all, when you were at the University of Miami, your head coach was Jimmy Johnson. So what was it like to have that legendary coach as your coach when you were a member of the Miami Hurricanes?
Well, the great thing about Coach Johnson, I always tell people this. When I first got to the University of Miami, there was a sign that went from the training room to the locker room, and it was on the wall, and it said preparation plus opportunity equals success. Coach Johnson believed in that, and we believe in that as a team. And it was a situation where if you worked hard enough and did what you're supposed to do, it doesn't matter if you're a sophomore, if you're a senior, if you're a junior, if you bust your behind and prepared, when you got in the game, they expected you to be on point. So this game here, when I started this game in 1988 Orange Bowl, I was a redshirt sophomore, a guy who played a few games before that, but they knew I was prepared because I had prepared my mind and everything else I needed to do in order to play in that game. And Coach Johnson believed in that, and he made you believe in yourself. I tell people all the time, Coach Johnson worked us. I mean, he worked us and he worked us hard. He was constantly on us, but he also believed in you. And that was the great thing that made you feel good about yourself when you went out on the field. When he put you out there as a starter, he believed you were going to get it done because that's what he believed when you're a backup. So that was probably the most important thing. That's one thing I brought away from Coach Johnson. I always want our guys at Robert Morris University to understand, guys, I don't care if you're first team, second team, or whatever. When we had those redshirt sophomores and those true sophomores on the field as offensive linemen, I wanted them to know that we believed in them and they can get it done. So that was the thing that Coach Johnson instilled in me, the belief that I could get it done and making me understand I could run through a brick wall if I needed to, and that's what I would do for the guy.
Yeah, well, Coach, when I was a kid growing up, watching Miami on TV, and I saw that fog when you guys came out of the tunnel.
Yeah, man.
I was scared. I was scared out of my wits. I'm like, oh my God, here comes Miami, and I don't see that anymore down in Miami. It used to be like when I was a kid, I was intimidated by that. I'm like, oh God, and I told people when I started helping up.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't.
Use it.
You know what, Chris and Adam, I'll be totally honest with you, I don't see it either. That probably bothers me more than anything else. I don't care about the turnover chain. I don't care about it. But that fog was something special. When we came through that smoke and came out of that tunnel, it was something special for us. I mean, we couldn't wait for that smoke to happen. A crazy story. I remember we were playing at, matter of fact, we were getting ready to play in that Orange Bowl in 1988, but they didn't want us to use the fog because we were the visitors. And Oklahoma, because back then was the Big 8, they were the home team, and they told us we couldn't do it. And our mascot, Sebastian, guy by the name of John Ruth, he brought us fire extinguisher out there, and we came through that smoke one way or another. So exactly what you're saying, Chris and Adam, everybody believed in that freaking fire extinguisher coming out of that smoke, and he prepared it for us. He was like, okay, they don't want us to prepare the regular smoke. I'm going to get a fire extinguisher. We're going to do the smoke one way or another. And he did that because it was special to him, too. So it's special to a lot of people. So I'm hoping they bring it back a little more.
Yeah, well, but I think that's when I was a kid growing up, and like I was saying, I was helping out different sporting teams. I was like, let's bring out this fog. Let's bring out the smoke.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's intimidating.
It's something special. I mean, when you see a team coming through that fog, it reminds you of that movie. I don't know if you guys remember. It was my movie when I was a kid. It was a movie called Fog. And when the fog rose up, there were some people on it was a Viking ship. And they would go and they would kill people in that fog. So that's what it reminded me of. It was like there's a Viking ship coming through about to kill you. So that's how we looked at it. So it was one of those situations where it was real exciting to come through that fog.
Yeah. So you're up in Buffalo right now, right?
Yeah, I'm up in Buffalo. We're trying to find some replacement killers. I'm trying to find some guys that's going to help us win some football games. So I'm up here right now looking at a junior college guy here up in Erie College, a corner we're going to bring in this weekend on a visit, and then some other guys we're bringing in. But mostly we're bringing in offensive linemen and defensive linemen. That's what we're bringing in a big capacity. We're trying to get those guys mid-year because, with the transfer portal, you got a lot of guys jumping in, especially because we didn't do very well. So we got to make sure we're bringing guys in replacing. And again, we got to make sure guys understand this push and pull mentality that we're going to have and accountability we're going to have towards each other.
Yeah. So that transfer portal, it's okay for some teams, but some teams has issues with it. You got to find that diamond in the rough, pretty much.
You got to. I mean, and the thing about a transfer portal, I always tell people, because you got a ton of parents coming in and say, hey, most important thing is my son's education. Well, your son's not jumping in the transfer portal because he wants to go to Harvard. Your son's jumping in the transfer portal because he can't play football. So when you tell me that's the most important thing, is that really the most important thing? So you got to have a conversation, educated conversation with a lot of these young men because they've been here 2 years, 3 years. Hey, are you on track to graduate? That's what I want to tell them. I don't mind you going to the portal, but are you on track to get your degree? But when you transfer, are you going to lose another 12 credits where you're behind the 8 ball again, graduating from college? So those are the things that have to be important. That's why grad transfers, they don't bother me. They've gotten their degree. They do what they do. The guy after 1 year, he didn't have a whole lot of credits bought into. When you're like 2-3 years deep into college, you're trying to transfer. That's a tough situation for you if you're not on track to get your college education.
See, people don't realize that. That's a great point. Nobody brought that up, saying, okay, because I thought your transfer portal, you got all the credits to transfer, but like you said, if you're on a year in school and you're going to go in the transfer portal, you got to make sure your credits, carry over. That's
Exactly. Make sure your credits are transferred. And no one's, because everybody's talking about the football aspect of it. No one's talking about the education aspect of it. That's the first thing when a guy comes to me and says, hey, coach, I want to go on a transfer portal. The first thing I ask him is, okay, what's your progress towards degree? You're in your third year. You need 72 credits. Are those 72 credits going to transfer? So I want to make sure that he understands the importance of transferring those credits and being able to get those credits at the next school. And so those are the things that are important to me, because the young man's got to understand there's only 1,700 jobs at the next level. I tell guys all the time they want to get to the NFL. Actually, 1,696, but there's only 1,700 jobs in the NFL. And you got FBS, FCS, Division II, Division III, junior college, NAIA. All those guys are vying for those jobs, trying to get those jobs. I understand that's your plan A. That's good. Work on that plan A. But when that plan A don't work out, let's find another plan A. I don't believe in plan B's because I feel like it takes away from someone. Let's find another plan A. And that degree is what's going to help you start that other plan A. If you don't have that, it's going to be a tough situation for you.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So it goes back.
Last question?
It goes back what Adam just said. Adam, this is what Coach Johnson instilled in us. The one thing I remember about Coach Johnson, he got there before I did, but he got there in '84. I think the graduation rate at Miami at that time was like 22% or 25%. It jumped to 80% when Coach Johnson got there, because he believed in guys doing what they need to do in the classroom. Did we have a great football team? Yes, we did have a great football team, but at the same time, we had guys graduating from college.
That's a good point. Folks, if you're watching this program, make sure you graduate from college, because if you don't make it in football, like you said, you got to have something to fall back on. And mom and dad are not going to take care of you the rest of your life, So
exactly. Well, you know what? No, Chris. Nowadays, some mom and dads take care of their kids forever. When you and I and Adam were young, those things didn't happen. Mom and dad were like, no, you got to make your own way. So it's a little different now.
Yeah, I'm a kid of the 80s, and my parents used to tell me, you got to work hard. You got to do it yourself. I'm not here to help you.
Absolutely.
I'll help you when I need something, but you're not going to stay here and live here. You got to get going.
Absolutely. So yeah, but those days were great back then. And like Adam said, Coach Johnson was my first 4 years because I was redshirted. And then my senior year, Coach Erickson came in, a coach that also won 2 national championships in Miami. And I tell people that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, because that culture at Miami, what it did was we had 5 national championships at the University of Miami. There's 5 of them, but there's 4 different coaches. So that shows you how the players played a big role in that. When Coach Johnson left to go to the Dallas Cowboys in '89 and Coach Erickson came in, Coach Erickson was willing to listen to what we had to say and kind of take some of our advice about some of the coaches we wanted to stay, some of the coaches we wanted to go. And Coach Erickson listened to that, and we won a national championship his first year there. And that was because of the culture that we had as a team and what we believed in. We believed in each other. So those things are extremely important. So when I got that opportunity, like I told you before, when I got that opportunity to start in the Orange Bowl, all my teammates believed in me. That was the great thing about it. All my teammates believed that I could get it done and I could play just as well as the other guy that was suspended for that game.
Mm-hmm. You got one more question, Adam?
Yeah. Now, what was it like to play Notre Dame? Because I know Notre Dame, Miami.
We're back to flashbacks.
The Catholics versus the convicts.
You know what? I always tell people this. The only thing that offended me about Catholics versus convicts is that convicts wasn't first. It wasn't convicts versus Catholics. That's the only thing that offended me. No, to be totally honest with you, the weird part about it is exactly what I said. To say Catholics versus convicts and we graduate 80% of our guys is crazy. But those games were incredible. I mean, those were the rivalries that we loved. We loved that. I mean, it became a rivalry while we were there. And I think they turned into one simply because my freshman year, my redshirt freshman, I was redshirted. I remember being at home watching the game. We beat them 58-7 or 58-10. And everybody was kind of upset. We're running up the score. This is Jerry Fauch's last game. Why would they do that to him? I'm thinking, what do you mean, why would we do that to him? It's your job to stop us. It's not our job to stay out of the end zone. And so that's how the rivalry started. And I think they were like upset about this and upset about that. And that's how it started. So it's like, okay, you want to have a rivalry. Let's see who can win this rivalry. And I was there the 5 years I was there, that rivalry became real big. So when they beat us in 1988 with the Phantom Fumble, when they beat us with that, the next year, 89, we were looking forward to that game. That was one game that we were like, hey, Coach X, you just got to turn us loose. You got to turn us loose for this game. Just let us go, do what we need to do to win this football game. And we ended up winning the football game, which was huge for our senior year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you have so on December 30th of this year, at the halftime of the Orange Bowl, you'll be there with your other inductees, and that's going to be great. And you're going to see Tennessee and Clemson play each other. And I feel like somebody needs to knock out Clemson Can somebody do that?
Oh. I think somebody can. I mean, Tennessee may be that team that can do that. Tennessee's playing outstanding, obviously, but Clemson's also playing good ball. But I'm like you. I just want Miami to win the ACC championship first. Let's get that, and then let's talk national championship after that. I think right now, Coach Cristobal is doing what he needs to do to turn that thing around, and he's doing a great job at it right now. He's just continuing to push himself. Don't worry about the record. Just see what kind of improvement you have. And the same thing with us. Like you said, what I need to do to get our team turned around. Can't worry about records. Can't worry about what happened last year. We got to put ourselves in position to win football games and bring the right players in there to do that thing. Again, it goes back to what Coach Johnson taught me a long time ago. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. Making these guys believe in themselves and understand when you get that opportunity, you got to take full advantage of it, because if you don't take it, I always tell guys, don't count your reps. Make your reps count. So if you're in there for one rep, you better make sure you make a tackle or make a catch and make something spectacular so the coaches can see you. So don't count those reps. Make those reps count and be prepared for that opportunity.
Hey, I want to say it right now, Florida State, Miami in the ACC title game. That's what the ACC needs. And I think they've been trying to get that for years. And by God, we got to get that thing going here. You know, that's
why they put them. That's why they put them in separate conferences. That's why they put them on separate sides, and that's exactly what I did. I'm with you 100%. We just got to make that happen. Both these teams got to get it done. Let's knock out Clemson and do what we need to do and make it happen.
And then if they do, you and I will go down there and we'll have some. We'll bring our brother and we'll have a good time.
Absolutely, we'll have a blast. I'll try to get us in a box. One way or another, we'll get up in a box somewhere. We're gonna hang out with the rest of the guys.
All right, cool. Awesome, Coach. Well, I hope you and your family have a great holiday season and safe trip back from Buffalo, and get those guys, and we'll talk to you in the spring, okay?
That sounds great. We're going to have an outstanding holiday season because I'm getting inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. I could be more excited and more humble. Hey, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Adam. Man, you guys have a great night. Thanks for having me on.
Talk to you soon.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Take care.
Bye. That's Coach Bernard Clark, the head coach of Robert Morris University up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but he's known more about the Miami Hurricanes of the glory days. And like I said, I want to say right now, what was it today? It's December 6th, 2022. Miami and Florida State in the ACC title game. It could happen. They just have to get themselves together. That's all. Yeah. Miami faces each other. It could be part two. I don't care. Yeah. And then we'll go down and have a good time. And it will be funny. This time next year, we'll be talking about it. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, Chris, like I said last night, Jordan Travis is coming back, and Florida State, to me, they could be a top 10 team next year. And,
hey, you like my picture I put on there with with Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. Oh, that brings back 80s memories.
Exactly. Well, let's shift gears here. Let's go. I know it's not that warm out today to go fishing, but I know if it was warm enough, this gentleman will be hitting the pond or the big lakes up here in Hartford County and Baltimore County and all that stuff, and probably go down to see Adam down in North Carolina. Adam, bring him in.
Our next guest, the world accomplished fisherman. He has won the prestigious Bassmasters Classic, Angler of the Year. He's hung out with some of the best in sports, NASCAR driver Martin Truex Jr. and PBA Tour superstar Kyle Troop. So let's bring in this accomplished fisherman. His nickname is Ike. Michael Iaconelli. Mike.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Mike.
Thanks so much for joining us. And
cheers.
What was it like to
Cheers.
fish?
I don't have a beer, but I got my iced tea.
What was it like to fish and bowl with Kyle Troop?
That was amazing. I got to tell you, filming My World was eye-opening for me from the perspective that I got to see some of the best athletes in the world in their craft. And that was the cool part about the show. But Kyle in particular, when you see Kyle, when you watch him on TV, or even if you just see an image of Kyle, he has this like wild, crazy, energetic personality. And you wonder, is this real? Like, what is this really the way this guy is? And I'm so happy that it is. And I got to really get a friendship with Kyle and experience, man, he's a genuine dude. And the great thing, there's a lot of similarities with what Kyle's doing for bowling and what other guys are trying to do in fishing, which is grow the sport, make it more mainstream, make it cool, make it something that a kid can watch on TV and being like, I want to do that, and Kyle's that kind of dude. And I'll say it again, watching him on a lane, watching him at a bowling alley bowl, watching what he can do with that ball, it's incredible. It's magical.
Yeah, it's awesome with the two-handed. And his father, Guppy, who I grew up watching, and Adam and we used to watch bowling on Saturday afternoons on ABC when it was on. We were children. And his father now is actually, went up in age, but it's funny. Kyle took his same father's persona and make him into his own, and wearing the same goofy pants that his dad did back in the 80s.
Yeah, it's great. And filming My World, it was cool because my kids got to interact with some of the athletes and meet some of the athletes. And I mean, famous people in the sports, but they loved Kyle. They love like kids are like naturally attracted to him. It was pretty cool to see it, So my kids now have a favorite bowler too. So
that's awesome. That's pretty cool. So talk about what have you been doing lately? Because I haven't talked to you in 2 years. The last time we did the radio side.
Yeah.
And I was looking through my archives the other day. I'm like, I haven't had this guy on in 2 years. What the heck's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. The same and different. In fishing, we have a dedicated season like a lot of sports do. And our season traditionally runs about February, starts in February, ends in September. But we really have that second half to our sport, which is a little like NASCAR, right? Where the sponsorship and the marketing and the promotions is just as important as the sport itself. So, once that switch shuts off in September, I go from fishing every day to working with these companies every day. And that's a cool thing because it's not just sales and marketing, but it's product development. We're doing really cool stuff with companies developing lures and rods and reels. So it's all that stuff. And then, we got a lot of our own stuff going on. So we do a podcast. We do have an Ike Foundation, which gets kids fishing. We do in the shops. We do, TV segments. So it's a nonstop deal. So, I think a lot of people look at the sport and they say, wow, these guys get to fish for a few months and then that's it. But it really is a 12-month gig. And it's just as busy now in the off season as it is when the season's underway.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, this time of year, you're probably, do you go out this time of year, even if in December, and check out new stuff and see if it works for, just like Kyle gets a new bowling ball and see if it works?
I do. I stay very active, not just testing product, but also from the standpoint of trying to stay good, stay relevant, right, in fishing, because I think like other sports, if you get away from it for too long, you feel yourself getting out of the rhythm, getting out of the, what you need to do. So, fishing a few times a week at a minimum is important for me. And even fishing under extreme conditions, right? Like in the beginning, when you guys introduced me, you said, yeah, this is terrible weather out right now. And it is in a lot of places, but fishing under those conditions can make you a better angler. Those tough conditions sometimes can sharpen your skills. So I try to stay busy. That's really key to me, is to keep fishing. Even if it's not hardcore bass tournament fishing, just staying on the water can keep you sharp.
Adam, go ahead.
Yeah. I saw in your profile, your favorite place to fish is a place that I'm very familiar with, and that's Lake Champlain in the beautiful Green Mountain state of Vermont, home of the best maple syrup and ice cream. So, and also tell us this question. You have fished and raced against NASCAR driver Martin Truex Jr. What was that like?
Yeah. The first part, Adam, you're dead on. Champlain is awesome. So many cool things, especially the scenery, the beauty, the food, everything up there is great. But from a fishing standpoint, I don't know that there's a better place on earth. I'll even expand it to that, because I think the mix of different species is something special. So, largemouth, smallmouth, trout, pike, walleye, all these amazing species in really what is one of the Great Lakes. It's not technically one of the Great Lakes, but it should be. So I love Champlain. I love Champlain, and I love that it's in the Northeast, because Northeast anglers and Northeast fisheries usually get a bad rap. So very happy that it's up here in our neck of the woods. Yeah, the second part was getting a chance to fish with Martin Truex, and it was super, super cool. It was actually the second time I got to fish with him. And the thing that surprised me about a lot of these professional athletes is they're the best at what they do, but they are also passionate anglers. And, you know, the interesting thing, and it's an easy way to tell, is when you get someone on the boat and you hand them a rod and reel, the way they hold the rod, the way they cast the lure, you can instantly tell whether they're hardcore fish heads. And Martin Truex Jr. is a fish head to the core. And I'm flat out tell you that he's really good. Like, you know, with some of these athletes, it's the first time, or they fished as a kid and it was them bringing back something. But for Martin, you could tell he's engaged in it a lot. Like I got to talk to him, and when he's not racing, when he's not at a sponsor gig, he is fishing fresh, saltwater, and it's really cool. And the other thing is he grew up in New Jersey. He's a Jersey guy. So a shout out to Martin Truex Jr. for being a heck of a fisherman.
Nice.
Amen.
Mike, I have a question for you. When I go fishing with my brother, I always snag. I don't know why, and I get tired of it, and I just sit there and I read a book.
Yeah.
What do you do to fix that? Because I try everything, sidearm. I try to do over the top, and I still find a boot or anything in the water, and I'm like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, what you're saying, I can really relate to, because you're doing something. If you're telling me you're getting snagged, you're doing something really right. Okay. And so the first thing is the fish live near cover. Right. All fish, very few fish like to be out in the open water, pelagic, just swimming around nothing. A lot of game fish, especially bass or pike or walleye, they live near stuff. They live near docks. They live near trees. They live near rocks, right? That's where they live. It's their home. So you're doing the right thing. You are absolutely doing the right thing by casting to those areas. The main thing is, fishing a lure that snags less. And one of the big things I'm an advocate of in fishing is a really simple rig called a Texas rig. Okay. And all that means is when traditionally it's with a soft plastic lure, you could do it with live bait, you could do it with other style baits, but the hook is buried or hidden in the body of the bait. And the great thing about that is, especially with the soft plastic, the lure is soft that if a fish bites, the hook will penetrate out of that body. But if you throw into a tree or next to a rock or under a dock and you're sort of hung up, it doesn't want to embed in the snag. So Texas rig, keep casting in those same places. Don't give it up. I like reading books too, but keep trying. That's where they live.
So if anybody has questions like me, or if they want to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you?
The great thing about fishing is this is a way more accessible sport than a lot of the guys you have on this show. And I'm really proud of that. Fishing is a sport where most of the top guys, you could literally talk to them on this thing, on email. And I love that access. I love that access with my fans. So, man, I would love to hear from people through my social sites, through my YouTube channel. We do a lot of teaching on YouTube. And all of that's at Mike Iaconelli Fishing. So, yes, please, questions, subscribe to my channel, shoot me a question. I'll get back to you.
Cool. So your first competition, is it in February down in Florida? It is. Yes. We start the season on probably one of the most world famous bass lakes ever, which is Lake Okeechobee in Southern Florida. And it's really cool for me, because now that I'm one of the old guys, I remember being in my 20s starting this journey. And now I'm one of the old guys. I'm 50 now. But I remember being a kid and reading Bassmaster magazine or In Fisherman or, these iconic print publications from the 80s. And I remember reading about Lake Okeechobee, and my eyes were always just like, one day
I will fish there, and seeing these mammoth bass being caught there. So it's really cool all these years later, now as a pro for 30 years to be able to go to a place I dreamt about as a kid. And it is a big fish factory. It's the one thing, there's 3 places in the United States where you can catch a true trophy. And when I say trophy, 10 plus pound bass.
Wow.
That's a thing in our sport that it's hard to do. And Florida, South Louisiana, and South Texas, maybe California, they're the only places in the United States you can do that regularly. And on any given cast at Okeechobee, you can make that cast feel a bite, and it could be a 10-pounder. That's something really, really special. Very excited. Couldn't think of a better place to start the year with a big bass factory like Okeechobee.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on tonight. It's been a pleasure having you back on. We'll get you on during the. I guess Adam, we should do this every during the springtime.
Yeah,
where he is. Where in the world is Mike today? How about that? That'd be cool.
You should come and fish here in the mountains of North Carolina. There's a lot of good places up here to fish, Mike. So you're always welcome to come fishing. Around Asheville or in the Smoky Mountains. You're always welcome up here, Mike.
I would love that. I appreciate the invite, and always great being on the show, guys. Love coming on. So hope to talk to you again real soon.
Well, have a great holiday season, and wish your wife Becky Merry Christmas. She did a great job getting you on.
I appreciate that. She's smart. I'm not. Happy holidays, guys.
See you later.
I'll see you later, Mike.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Happy holidays.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's Mike Iaconelli, who professional bass fisherman. So we do a lot of things here on the program. We talk bowling, we talk fishing. Maybe this gentleman who's coming on next, our good friend Scott Wyckoff, I don't know if he's a fisherman. I don't know. Let's ask him. So, Scott, have you been on the lake anytime soon? To me, I asked about my snagging issues, and he told me I'm doing okay. But I'm like, yeah, tell that to my father. He's yelling at me all the time,
Well, I like the explanation. All you need is the right lure, the
Right.
snaggable lure. So go for one of those Texas rigs. But I've got all sorts of, probably about 10 yards from me in the garage, I've got all sorts of fly fishing equipment from my father. He was an avid fly fisherman. And I think maybe when I'm not getting up at 1:30 in the morning anymore and I got a little more free time for myself, I might get back on the streams and do the fly fishing. I remember several years ago when I kind of had the fever and I was out on the streams here where I live in Montgomery County in Albany, kind of in suburban DC. It was also muzzle loading season, and some muzzle loaders took off after some deer near where I was on the stream. So I kind of packed things up and went home that day.
You're like, later, dude. Let's see ya. Yeah. Well, Scott, it's Army Navy this week, and I'm fortunate to get a pass to get on up to Philly this weekend to see this game. I'm looking forward to it. So you've been doing it for a couple of years. So what does the Army Navy game mean to you?
Well, I mean, you use all the phrases and the cliches. The greatest rivalry in all of sports. It's a rivalry that goes beyond boundaries. Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, Harvard, Yale, things of that sort. This one goes all across those boundaries. It's a rivalry that is like no other. It's iconic for the stories it's told. The spectacle is like no other. And it's just it's a real thrill for me to be involved with it and to tell the stories of the athletes, of the Naval Academy athletes that are involved with it, and the different patches that each of the football players are wearing, honoring a different member of the fleet that has served their country. And Brendan Looney, who was a great football and lacrosse player at the Naval Academy, a Navy SEAL who died in war, is being honored by John Marshall, the leading striker linebacker who had 4 sacks to set a record for Navy in their upset win over UCF a few weeks ago. So just incredible stories. And, it's great that they moved the game around to try to share it because it is America's game. But I'm telling you, the best town for it. And here's the Baltimore guy you're talking to. I love it in Philadelphia. Philadelphia embraces the game. The iconic Philadelphia athletes that like Ron Jaworski, love it. They come out and they promote it. It's all about the city. I'll be going on Thursday and then doing Radio Row for WBAL on Friday. And I guarantee you, every restaurant we go into, every hotel lobby, every store will have Army Navy signs and banners. And it's really neat how Philadelphia really it's a part of their fabric. This is the 123rd Army game. This will be the 90th played in Philadelphia. Next year, Foxborough, moving it up to the home of the New England Patriots. So that'll be a first where it's moved kind of up north of the Mid-Atlantic. Years ago, back in the 80s, it went to Pasadena. They played, I think, in 1983 at the Rose Bowl, which was fantastic. A gentleman I interview each year from USAA who was in the Naval Academy class of 85, he went out there. They said they had a great time, but it also almost bankrupt both West Point and Navy's athletic departments just out of the mere cost of traveling the Brigade of Midshipmen over there. So I think, this rotation that's going through now, Philadelphia this year, next year, Foxborough. After that, I think FedEx Field, Baltimore, and then back in Philadelphia again.
Yeah. I was looking at the schedule, and I'm looking forward to go up there because I got the pass for the game, and and hopefully the weather's good, because it's always a good time knowing that football was over when you have Army and Navy, and I feel like that's the end of college football for the season. Even if you have a bowl game, it's still cool, but that's the start of like, okay, football's done for college. Let's get into basketball, and I feel like that's like the transition, like you see the great game of. And I know a lot of people, make comments about Army Navy is a lot of option, and they're sitting there going, they just ran the ball again, really? We just saw this like 5 minutes ago. It's like, but some days it's fascinating to see them. They actually could pass the ball.
Yeah, it's amazing how these offenses have evolved, and really people that give Army and Navy and Air Force a hard time about the triple options. I mean, the option offense is basically run in places all across the nation, and they just call it different things. We talked today on our Zoom call with Brian Newberry, the defensive coordinator for Navy, and he was brought to Navy because of his ability to coach against option offenses. And that's what head coach Ken Niumatalolo was looking for. And he admits that he interviewed some high-profile defensive coordinators from all across the country, and he said the interviews were very short when they didn't have the right answers when they started talking about the option. And Brian Newberry came from Kennesaw State. That was a FCS team that played the option, that played against teams that ran the option, Wofford, Georgia Southern, some different schools like that. So he really knows what it's about. And when you go up against Army, Army, 260, 270-pound fullbacks that run downhill. They, and Air Force and Navy this year, three of the top rushing teams in the nation. And it's just the most physical brand of football you're ever going to see. Is you see coming into the line there and players diving and just laying it all out in the line. Coach Niumatalolo says, without a doubt, it's their most physical game that they play every year. And this is from a team in Navy that this past year played Notre Dame, played Cincinnati, and played UCF in consecutive weeks, all very physical teams.
Yeah, and like you said, you had Navy and Navy had Notre Dame on the ropes. It was funny. I was up at Syracuse getting ready for Florida State Syracuse. My buddy and I were sitting at the hotel before we were driving, and I took a nap. And I was like, when Notre Dame's up like 21 points, so I'm like, all right, I guess this game's over. I'm gonna take a nap. And I woke up and he's telling me, he goes, "We almost blew the lead, dude." I'm like, "How did you almost blew the lead?" He goes, "Well, Navy came back and shut us out in the second half." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "You guys should learn how to play football, maybe." Like, but that was a great way. It was a loss, but that carried over for them because they took on Central Florida the week later and beat them.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because typically the Army Navy game, the over and under is one of the lowest over and unders of all the college football games of the season. And even though Navy hasn't scored a lot of points in a lot of games, they showed that they could score 34, 31 points against a Notre Dame team that's had a really good defense all year. So it's interesting when folks think about betting this game, if they do maybe, get a little better odds on the over, go with the over if they want to maybe bet Navy with that over because the over-under is so low in these Service Academy games.
Hey, Adam, you got a question for
Yeah.
him?
First of all, go Navy, beat Army
There
on
you go.
Saturday, and there you go, Scott. Nice. And talk to us about the uniforms that both teams are going to be wearing, because those are two really, really cool uniforms that Army and Navy will be wearing this
It really
Saturday.
is. It's the battle between Army and Navy on the field and the battle of the uniforms and the swag of Under Armour and Nike. Naval Academy is an Under Armour school. The West Point is a Nike school. For Under Armour, they've been working on these uniforms all season long. They're going to honor the 54 astronauts that have attended the United States Naval Academy, and more astronauts have attended Navy than any other school in the country. And Navy will be the first team that ever wears a uniform that has the NASA logo on it. A number of teams like UCF have worn astronaut and space uniforms before, but as you see there, Navy will be wearing a uniform that not only has the NASA meatball logo on it, but a logo also on the side of the moon and the spacewalk. But then on the other side of the coin, when you look at those Nike Army uniforms, they honor the Armored First Division, which was the tank division that made its way across Europe and really battled back and led towards the Battle of the Bulge and really brought the Allied forces victory in Europe. So they will honor the Armored First Division. So always cool seeing the uniforms. And in talking to Navy head coach Ken Niumatalolo, he says without a doubt, it is a recruiting tool. When they go into players' homes, the players, their parents, their brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles want to know about those uniforms, the special uniforms they're going to be wearing. And sometimes, like last year, Navy had 2 special uniforms because they had the 9/11 commemorative uniform that they had in the second game of the season against the Air Force Academy on the 20th year after 9/11. But then also they had the uniforms for the United States Marine Corps and also Top Gun that they had from for the Army Navy games. So sometimes they even get 2 uniforms. And the funny story is I was in Philadelphia last week at the great luncheon that the City of Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau has each year promoting the Army Navy game. And they bring in all the coaches and the players and celebrities like Ron Jaworski and doing interviews there and talking to Bijan Nichols, who is the great senior kicker for the Naval Academy, and talking about the uniforms and how cool they are. But then I asked him, I go, they have these special shoes. And he goes, no. I get to wear my own shoes. I'm the kicker.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Scott, with the for folks who are hitting up there like myself, what's the best time to leave? Because I know is Biden coming to the game?
I haven't heard if the president's coming or not. Typically, when the president arrives, it's so close to kickoff that you're usually in good shape. But what does happen, though, and if you get word, if you check your social media or something like that, you get word that the president is going to be there, they do a lockdown of the stadium when the president is moving. And I remember when they were in Baltimore a few years ago, before he was actually president, he was president-elect. Donald Trump came to the game right after the election. And there were some reporters that were stuck on elevators that couldn't get to their broadcasts. People were, locked in bathrooms. So that's part of the thing. The good idea is to get up there and usually do a morning tailgate, some Bloody Marys, maybe some Old Bay Hers cheese curls, some Otterbein cookies, maybe some burger cookies. Take a bowl of Skittles up there with you. Grill up some hot dogs and brats. But maybe get up there in the morning and then get into the stadium by now. You're saying, well, wow, the kickoff isn't until 3, but the march on of the midshipmen and the march on of the long gray line of the cadets really begins right around noon. And once they get into the stands, there's all sorts of stuff going on. They play these crazy videos. They have the flybys. They have the parachuters that drop from the planes. They have the prisoner exchange, all sorts of stuff going on. And you see the players warming up. So usually, you think you're in the field for a long time, but times move pretty good. And it's also cool moving around the stadium and seeing some midshipmen or some cadets in the concourse, maybe buying them a pretzel or a Philadelphia cheesesteak and showing your gratitude for what they're going to do in their service to the country.
Yeah. So when is your pregame show start up on Saturday?
Saturday, my pregame show, first portion of it will be from noon to 2 o'clock on
Okay.
WBAL radio. And then from 2 until 3 will be the Navy Radio Network pregame show. And then just after 3 o'clock, right around maybe 3:10, 3:12, will be the kickoff from Lincoln Financial Field. And I'll be broadcasting the game with the voice of the midshipman, Pete Medhurst, Joe Miller, Keith Mills, and myself. And actually, Keith Mills and I on Friday will be along Radio Row at Reading Terminal in Philadelphia. And we're going to have a show on WBAL radio from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. We're going to have Superintendent Buck from the Naval Academy on with us, Keenan Reynolds, the great 4-year starter, Mr. Everything at quarterback, who people to this day still think should have been invited to the Heisman Trophy ceremony in New York the year he was a senior. We're also going to be joined by Ron Jaworski, Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson. We're going to talk to a Navy SEAL who played football at the Naval Academy. So it's going to be a great show and just a great way to embrace what is truly America's game, the greatest rivalry in all of sports, and without a doubt, the greatest spectacle in all of sports.
And hope Roger Staubach might be there. You never know.
Roger Staubach, unbelievable when he's around, the charisma and the excitement. And of course, on Friday evening is the big gala that they have, the Army-Navy gala that they have at Reading Terminal in the Convention Center in Philadelphia. And it's also neat, too, with, of course, your decorations that are up for the program tonight. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia really enjoys the holidays, and it's the Christmas time, and there are all sorts of decorations all around town, and it's really a neat weekend. I know a lot of Naval Academy graduates love to go to the game, get tickets, get a hotel room, and make a weekend out of it.
Well, it's going to be fun, and I hope to see you Saturday, Scott. So I'll see you around the stadium. You know, I'll probably be on the field probably before the game for a little bit.
Yeah, and up in the press box, nothing like the cheesesteaks and those great Philadelphia pretzels.
Yes, and the hot dogs and everything else. And I'm done for the day. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's late for you, but get to bed. We need you tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll see you guys. Take it easy.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Go Navy, beat Army.
Yep, that's true.
Right. Go Navy, beat Army. Okay, Scott.
See you, Scott. All right, that's Scott Wyckoff, the busiest guy in Baltimore on Baltimore radio, and we will be there Saturday here on Herb FM Radio. We'll be there getting all the post-game stuff. We'll put it on next Monday night, special show next Monday night because of the we have some family situations. We have a party we have to go to on Tuesday. I do. Adam will have one. We'll have one down the road.
Oh yeah.
So, well, we're trying to wait for Chris Playford to join us, but I don't know. I'll send him a text. I don't know if he said he got the link.
Okay.
Yeah, but I guess he's running a little behind. But so let's just if folks, if you want to get the guide for Philadelphia, for the Army Navy game, that's the link right there. If Biden is coming up, make sure you listen to local radio up there in Philadelphia. 97.5 The Fanatic will probably tell you the traffic update. There's a lot of stations up there in Philadelphia that will help you get around that. And when they shut 95 down, they shut 95 down.
Oh, yeah. I believe Chris. I do believe it. And when you go, have a Philly cheesesteak and a hot dog for me.
Yeah. I'll get some cool stuff. They always have
a pretzel. I know it's called. I mean, Philly has some of the best food out there.
Exactly. We're waiting for Prather to join us here. Big news in baseball. If you're a big Met fan, this guy signed with the Mets for 2 years, $86.7 million, including a $35 million option for 2025. So, do you think that's a good move for?
I do. Justin Verlander. He just finished winning World Series with the Houston Astros, and now he and Kate Upton can explore the Big Apple.
Oh yeah, and him and Max Scherzer used to pitch with each other in Detroit. So it's going to be fun to watch. Them two pitch, and you got the 1-2 punch. And I'm sorry. I was a little upset that DeGrom went to Texas, but here's the other reason I'm happy he left, because he's an injury bug,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
true,
have
Chris.
somebody who,
True.
yeah. So just the injury bug is one of those things, and he hasn't had a full season in like 3 years. So do you really want
Right.
somebody to pay for that type of money? No. Yeah.
I mean,
So, yeah. What else is going on around here? In college football, the Seminoles are playing Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl, December 29th at 5:30 on ESPN. That's going to be a very highly anticipated bowl game, because Florida State hasn't beat Oklahoma since they played each other in 2011. Up in down there in Tallahassee. So here's a little, let's see, that's a little flashback there with Jimbo. Yeah, but the last time they played in a bowl game, you got to go back to the Orange Bowl when we only scored 2 points.
yep. I was just getting ready to say that. I believe it was for a national title.
Yeah, it was one of those BCS title game, and it was like 13-2 was the final score.
Yep, I remember that, and
Yeah.
now, yeah, I remember them days, Chris.
Yeah, those
But
days.
the good news for Florida State is Jordan Travis is returning next year, and if you're a Seminole fan, you got to look forward to 2023, because I think Florida State is going to be a team you do not want to mess with, because I think they're going to be a preseason top 10 team, and who knows, they could knock off Clemson in the ACC.
Yeah, let me text Fraser here. Are you all right, so I just text him. So anyway, so that's an interesting game in the bowl game. We're gonna have this gentleman coming on at around 8:30. Rick Scolios, who is the PR director of the Holiday Bowl, live on the phone. We'll talk Oregon and North Carolina. North Carolina had a great time in the ACC championship game. They started off great until Dabo decided to send DJ packing, and DJ is packing. He's rolling out to California. Yeah.
Yes. DJ is in the transfer portal. So, I was reading where some of the places he could go, and one of the places on ESPN.com, a couple of places are UCLA. He could replace Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He could go to Oregon State, Florida.
Well, I think he's going to go to UCLA because he's from LA. My brother and I were thinking, UCLA. But to me, that's just, that's okay. And my brother goes, where did he come from? I was like, California. He goes, how the heck did he show up in Clemson? It's like, Clemson brings people in. That's the thing. So anyway, so we're waiting for Chris Brayford to join us. And then at 8:05, we'll get our good friend Jamie Costello. I have a story to tell you about him and myself and Jamie. It was funny. It's a very classic story we have to talk about because my buddy Matt and I went to a ball game, and at Cameron Yards, and I sat next to him. Didn't even know who he was.
Wow!
It was a classic. It was funny that night. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and he does a lot of stuff on News Channel too here in Baltimore. So we'll talk a little Ravens football. 8-4 for the Ravens, but you just lost Lamar Jackson, and you think Jackson's going to be out for a little while there, Adam, or you think this might be?
I think Lamar is going to be out for a while. I mean, and also, Chris, 8:15, we go out to the another place, well known for hunting and fishing, and that is the beautiful state of Montana.
Yes, Montana, because William & Mary, the tribe of William & Mary, going out there for their quarterfinal game against Montana State, who last year made it to the SBS title game against some team called North Dakota State and lost to them. But seems like they have everything all connected and ready to go here. So we're hoping to get Chris on. But in the meantime, let's bring in Jamie Costello, because I know he's sitting there. He's a busy guy. Let's bring him in.
How you doing, guys?
I know he's sitting there.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
How are you doing?
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm bringing you on now because we're waiting for the bowler, and he forgot we're on the Eastern time zone. So I'm like, it's okay. So great to see you again. How's everything going?
Good to see you. I'm putting a piece together. You just had Scott Wyckoff on. There's a singer. His name is Chris Nurthen, and he graduated from Navy, played in the Army Navy game, and he's got the Spirit song. He just wrote it, and it's great. So we're putting a story together. He's in Memphis. Listen to this. He runs a catering group. He's trying to make it in Nashville, and they come out. They have a big trailer, a food truck. They come out, and he rolls out a stage, and he sings songs, and he cooks, and he serves the people, and he thinks is just a great guy. Great guy. Can't wait to tell you this story. How you guys doing?
That's cool. Yeah, I was telling Adam about the story the first time you and I went to a baseball game together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were at that class. I'm sitting. Okay, here's the story, folks. It's a short story. My buddy Matt and I, it was a Sunday night baseball game, which I think was the Angels and Orioles, and I'm sitting in the behind home plate, and this guy comes in, gets to shave. I think you cut yourself from shaving or something like that. I'm like, okay, here's this guy talking to me during the game. I'm like, all right, here's it. And I'm looking over and doing when you do like the take every 5 minutes, going, like you're like, this guy looks familiar, and I'm thinking to myself, where do I find this guy from? And then after the Orioles won the game, I turned around and go, are you Jay McCostello from News Channel 2? And you're like, yes, sir. I'm like, all right. Nice to meet you.
I played second base for him. I was back with playing with Rich Dower. I used to sub for him. I've used that a couple of times. Hey, you look familiar. Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a great little story. And then after that, you and I have been, I know you a lot on TV and see you doing a good job on Channel 2. And I'm like, I know that guy.
You got a home here, man. You got a home. You're doing great, man. Both of you.
Yeah. So you've been a big Baltimore sports fan, since you were growing up in Rosedale. Yeah. And I was doing some research today. Yeah. Because this week is Ravens Steelers week, and everybody around here doesn't like the Steelers. Right. When did it became serious? Because I was talking to my girlfriend's father earlier today. He's a hardcore Ravens fan, and he had season tickets when the Colts were in town. When he was with the Baltimore Colts. And I asked him, when did people in Baltimore hate Pittsburgh? Did it go all the way back to the Colt days when the Colts and Steelers, or when did it start doing that?
Yeah, Bradshaw. Remember, Marcia Broda had us. We were on our way, and he knocked us off twice. And that was the year the Pirates beat us, and that's the year that something else happened in Pittsburgh. Yeah, the Steelers, and we were supposed to beat them, but not with Franco Harris and all that kind of stuff. They got in our way. So now, and that rivalry, I mean, it's kind of simmered the last couple of years because, that rivalry when they had Hines Ward and Polamalu, man, and we had Ray and we had Ed Reed. Those were some. I'll tell you a funny story, real quick. We were playing in the, I think it was the division championship out in Pittsburgh, and we were in front at the half. And I look over, and we're in the press box, and it's me and Garceau and Bruce Cunningham. And we all look at each other and go, you want to go outside? So there was a little ledge outside the press box. So we go outside, and we're going to the Super Bowl, baby. We're up 20. And the Steelers come back and beat us. So the next morning, I'm at the hotel, and this little old lady comes in, she's got her Roethlisberger, she's got the terrible towel hanging, and I'm just sitting there by myself, and she sits down, and she goes, that was a great game last night. I went, look, lady. Old women, old Steeler women.
That's awesome.
It's fanatic, so that was fun.
Yeah, I was doing some research, Adam, before you could ask a question. You don't live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, because there's a boundary between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And I was reading this online. When the Ravens are at home, they don't play Ravens home games in Harrisburg. They play the Steelers games.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then if the Ravens are on the road, they play Ravens road games.
Well, we got a bunch of Steeler fans here that work, and I just ride it.
I was like, really? I was like, what's? Yes, I guess that's like the boundary or something.
Yeah. I don't care whether the Steelers are 3-7 or they're always around. And aren't they again? Here they come. Here they come. They're always around somewhere. They're always trying to mess with us. Here come the Steelers. Black and gold. Here we go. There's Brad. Wow.
Yeah.
We're this up.
Whoa, that's a lot. That's a beating. Yeah, I was just trying to find like some old fashioned,
That's
Colts,
right.
Steelers. Yeah, crazy. So this week, I think it's going to be a classic game down to a field goal again. It's probably going to be one of those classic rivalry games. Like I was talking to Max Sparks last night on the Zoom call, the old Steeler offensive tackle who played for the Gators. So he's used to playing Gators Seminoles rivalry games. It's easy, and he told me, and we're going to play later in the show. He said, "I didn't know when we get to the NFL we had a rivalry." Because in college there's tons of rivalries, but when I got to the NFL, I didn't realize that. And then when he got there in 2004, he was so nervous, he was so wet behind the ears. He gets to Baltimore, and Tommy Maddox gets knocked out, and here comes some guy named Ben Roethlisberger rolling in.
I was at the game, and I said, okay, we had a guy that sat behind us, Steeler fan. He came to one game a year. He was always there, and he was loud, and I'm not, and he wasn't that, I can tolerate good lines. If you're funny, that's good. Hey, give me something to laugh at. We'll go back and forth. But when you go overboard, you're plucking it. That's enough. So he's been doing that for a number of years. Here he comes, Steele, and it was getting to be terrible. So a friend of mine says, hey, I'll go with the Steelers game for you. And I said, I'm going to tell you, this guy's going to get behind. He's going to get under your skin. And I'm telling you, nothing will happen. He's the most mild-mannered, priest-like, right? So we're sitting, and all of a sudden I look over, and they're nose to nose. I look up at the clock, 14:58 left in the first quarter, and they're going. I mean, it was crazy. So
and Jamie, you're like, oh God, my buddy's going to get arrested, and I have to go. I got to go get him out.
The Ravens and got rid of that guy. They kicked him out they took his season tickets away. Oh, that was terrible.
Oh, wow. Adam, you got a question for Jamie? Go ahead.
Now, Jamie, I know all about rivalries living here in the mountains of North Carolina. So, what's been when you look back at your career at Channel 2 in Baltimore, what's one memory that'll stand out to you that you'll never forget in your entire life?
My entire life, one memory. You know what? I hate to give you this answer, but it's always the next one. I always look, you look up the clock. What time is it? 8:05. I always think that the next greatest story is coming at 8:07, or it's going to be 8:10. It could be tomorrow, or it could be next week. So what has happened in the past, that's it. But if you want me to go relive everything, I can still see Polamalu over here. And Joe didn't pick him up. Joe, Polamalu's right there. He's going to jump the line, and he's going to tackle you. Remember that play when he jumped? I'm saying, Joe, he's right there. He's unguarded. Nobody's in front of him. But that's a great question. But there's just been so many things. So many. I mean, I'm looking at 35 years here at Channel 2.
Wow. Jeez.
There's so many memories. So many.
And you're like the senior guy now because Scott Garceau's gone. Keith Mills went the other way. You're the old guy now. So it's like.
Listen to this. After Stan Stovall retired, I'm behind Nice and Marty in Baltimore. Can you believe that? That's Nice and Marty.
Right.
And
Jeez, that's crazy. Well, let me let you go and get back to your great work on News Channel 2. I know you're getting ready for the 11 o'clock.
Please let me know.
We'll get you on. We'll talk more sports down the road, okay?
I love it. All right, I'll see you at an Angels game. Hey, did we pick up anybody today? No, Shohei just agreed to go to play to Japan. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't know that. Really?
Wow. He's going to play in the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, okay. I was like, shoot. He's gone. All right, okay. Hey, have a great holiday season, all right. I'll see you.
We'll see you guys.
All right, see you.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right, that's Jamie Costello from News Channel 2, a good friend of ours here on the program. Let's bring in this gentleman who has been waiting so patiently, our good friend Chris Prather from the Professional Bowlers Tour, who had a great year. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, Chris.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's your trip down under, sir?
It's pretty great. We walked away with Team Gold, which is always the goal, and was fortunate enough myself to walk away with a bronze in the singles. So pretty good trip all the way around.
Nice, awesome. So just talk about your 2022 season. You got another major. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually tough to kind of go back and think about this year because it's so much has happened, right? Like, got to go to Brazil, won 3 gold medals there. Got to go to Australia, won a gold there. Won a number 1 seed at the TOC, number 1 seed at the World Championship, win the World Championship. A couple other shows. It's just a pretty crazy year.
Exactly. So yeah, I found this little clip from the playoffs. I think it was this year, right?
Yeah, the playoffs this year. Yep.
Yeah, beating Don Barrett. Yeah,
Don Barrett. Yep.
And Don Barrett beat you in the fire I want to call it the Firestone, but it's the tournament champions, right?
Yep. TOC, bowled him at the TOC. He got the better of me there, but bowling at the Keckle Training Center here, and doing what I absolutely love right there. Slow wheel for days.
So what are you working on now until the first tournament in the end of January up in Indianapolis?
Yeah, honestly, it's just trying to stay on the lanes. Like, it's super difficult for me when I'm at home to want to actually practice because it's one of those deals where I have bowled so much that when it comes to practice, it's like, do I really want to? And then I just kind of like go back and watch clips like this at the playoffs or the TOC or the World Championships, and I'm like, okay, how could I get better? And then I try to figure out a way to motivate myself to get back on the lanes.
Yeah. Adam, you got a question?
First of all, I went to Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies over Thanksgiving.
Big old
shark. In honor of your nickname, Shark. So, first of all, congratulations on winning a gold medal in team competition representing Team USA in Australia, and also when we go back to Portland, Maine next September, you Lumberjacks are going for 4P.
3-time defending champions. It's pretty crazy, and so much had to happen for that to happen, right?
But tell us about what was it like to bowl at the IBF World Cup? I mean, it was you and AJ Johnson, and I believe Kyle Troop and Jacob Buttriff, and you had some incredible talent all around representing different countries.
It felt like because the way that it worked, right? The format was all match play, right? It was points based, and whoever had the most points got seeded into a bracket, and the format was very challenging to win, right? The young gentleman from Germany ended up winning singles, and it was just incredible to see the level of talent from around the world, because like I never got to represent junior Team USA, so I never got to travel the world as a kid. Like, I'm doing all of the things that I wanted to do as a kid. I'm doing it now, and some of these people you've never even heard of, right? There's a young man by the name of Merwin from the Philippines who shot 300 at me in the round of, I want to say 16 for the singles portion, and fully deserved to win that match. Bowled great the entire time, and you guys have probably never even heard of him. And super talented young kid. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him try to make his way onto the tour in the next couple of years. I mean, he can't be that old. He might be 17 to 20. I mean, he's young. But yeah, I mean, it was just, it's always kind of, inspiring, right? You get to spend all this time traveling, get to meet all these incredible people that you wouldn't otherwise get to meet. And it motivates me to continue to get better because I see all of these people from all over the world that are working nonstop. Some of them, like the folks from Malaysia, it is their literal job to go and bowl, right? They live together, they eat together, they practice together all the time, and they get paid salaries to go and bowl for medals, right? And their pay is based off of performance. So, if you have a bad year, then there goes some of whatever that money that you're counting on and things like that. So it's just a total different way of thinking about bowling, and always got to keep in mind that the next generation is fighting that much harder to get where you are because they're watching you, right?
Yeah.
And they want to beat you. So just trying to get better.
Exactly. And there's some guy named Jason from Australia.
Yeah,
he's some new guy. Is he a new guy?
Yeah. He ended up beating me in the.
And I saw the picture. He was picking on you. It's like, really?
It was in the whole tournament, right? There were 4 300s. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a young man from Malaysia that bowled one in the qualifying.
Okay.
Right? Merwin shot one against me. The very next round, Belmo shot one against me. And then in the team qualifying, the matches, Team USA men shot one against Canada.
Yes.
And so I was a part of 3 of the 4. And Brian O'Keefe can confirm this. In the 6th frame against Merwin, I was like, all right, Brian, this kid's about to shoot 300 against me. Let's just try some stuff, for the next game. I'm not going to win this game. So luckily it was a best of 3. So I ended up winning the first game. In the 6th frame, I'm like, let's try stuff, right? Let's just figure some stuff out for the last game. See if we can put together, a decent score, because this kid just isn't missing. And basically what I was noticing is he's left-handed. Every single time his ball hit the 10 board. I mean, if it hit 10 and didn't go to 9, if it just hit 10, it struck every time. And he threw 12 of them dead over 10 every single time.
Jeez.
And I was just like, all right, well, cool. Glad I got to be a part of this. But and then it was the same thing against Belmo. It was like 7th, 8th frame. I'm like, all right, well, I'm out of wood. Let's just try some stuff. He's going to shoot 300. Let's just try to make it close on the last game. And it was just, it's crazy how you can just watch someone get to that next level of focus because, they're starting to see it's coming down to it. Like, you got to step up your game. And it's crazy to watch it happen and then also try to do it yourself. It's a different way whenever you get into those match play situations.
Exactly. Adam, you have one last question?
Yeah. Now looking at next year's schedule, Chris, you get to go to 2 iconic places, North Rock Lanes in Wichita, Kansas, and then the place used to be known as Carolier Lanes in North Brunswick, New Jersey. When you saw those 2 places on the PBA Tour schedule next year, what was your initial reaction?
Well, we'll start with North Rock because I bowled league there. I practiced there, made the U.S. Open show there. I feel very confident in that building. I'm a little disappointed that it's not one of the bigger events. Just because I want to win in that building. It's kind of where Chris Prather got his real start in bowling with Wichita State, because you could go back and look at Teen Masters clips or whatever and be like, man, kid wasn't very good. And then you get to Wichita and start learning about all these things that I had no idea about. And Wichita kind of started the madness that is Chris Prather, the bowler. And as far as Carolier goes, or what was Carolier, I am so incredibly excited because all I've ever heard is stories about how packed this place is and how the locals just turn up for whatever tournament is there. In the past, it was always the U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm.
And I love going to places like Fairlawn, Ohio, where the TOC, where there's hundreds of people every day, right? You can't get to your next pair basically without going through the settee where the fans can't get. So I'm really excited to be in another giant bowling center with a bunch of history and meeting people that I wouldn't otherwise meet.
Right.
So everyone that's in the New Brunswick, New Jersey area, you guys better show up, come say hey to me, because I'm looking forward to it. This place has got so much history, and I'm really excited to be able to compete there. I kind of wish there was the U.S. Open and going back to its roots, but I think it's a Players Championship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the Players Championship, another major, another probably $100,000 check going to somebody. So it's going to be super exciting, and I'm really, really pumped. I'm excited for this year. The PBA is doing a great job expanding our tour, going to new places, going to places we wouldn't otherwise be going. So really, really excited about it.
Hey, I live here in Maryland, so that's only like what, 2 hours, 3 hours up in New Jersey. It depends on a good day.
Mhm.
So I could get up there and do my program if I get a chance to get up there.
Yeah, you could do a live show with us right there.
Yeah.
Don't even have to Zoom call.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe Adam could fly here to Maryland. I could drive him and I both drive up there.
Yeah, and I will say this, Chris. Chris has told me I'm the mayor of Portland, Maine. So I will say this: I will see you next September in Portland, Maine, for a week and defending your Elias Cup title. I wouldn't miss that for the world.
Yeah, the events that I look forward to the most. The first one is the PBA League because it's just so much fun. It's such a different atmosphere, and I feel like I say this every single time that I talk about it, but it feels like a football event.
Yes.
Everyone talks about bowling being
Yes.
an individual sport, and how it's easier to root for team, have like that team love or whatever, that team camaraderie, and you get all of that with the PBA League. And my hope is that we can expand on the PBA League and make it not necessarily the focal point, but make it something as big as what the PBA Tour is, and promote the team aspect of it, and find a way to promote that and market it.
Exactly. Well, Chris, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great holiday season. Keep on practicing so you could be that Jason guy, so you could beat him in a major. So you'd be like,
yeah, no kidding.
And hope you have a good holiday season, and we'll talk to you down the road. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you again.
Sure. See you next September, Chris.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, that's the Shark or Clark Kent. My girlfriend, we know him as Clark Kent.
Yeah. He does look like Clark Kent. I will say that. Chris.
Hey, it was great. When I first got a chance to talk to him when he won his first title, I was like, this guy's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears here. Let's get back to football. There is some football in this area. If you're in the CAA, one team left standing is the William and Mary tribe of William and Mary, but they have to hit the road. They got to go to this place called Montana, where maybe Mike Iaconelli probably goes fishing a lot, probably. Probably. So let's bring in Dan Days, who one of the analysts for the Montana State Bobcats, who are trying to get back to Frisco after a tough loss last year. So, hi Dan, how you doing?
Hey fellas, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and it's a real honor. You got a bunch of special guests on tonight, and not
we try to do cool things here, like fishing, bowling, Ravens talk, this different stuff, just to make people enjoy themselves. So, so it's always good. First of all, how's the weather out there in Montana? Because I know there's a storm.
Right now it's 30 degrees, and you guys, I probably got to talk about this, but College Game Day was here 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
and it was below zero when they went on the air.
Oh, geez.
So that was 2 weeks ago. We got a bunch of snow on Sunday night and Monday, about 8 inches. So the stadium's getting cleared out. And but anyway, it'll be brisk with an 8:15 Mountain Time kick.
Right, 10:15 Eastern time for everybody here in the East Coast, and even down in Williamsburg. So, taking on a team that you guys never played against before, and William & Mary, how do you go against? How do you get yourself ready for a team you've never seen before? Because I know people know about Mike London and his years at Virginia and other schools, but how do they get ready for a team like that?
Well, it's always interesting when you play conferences across the country, and of course you focus on your half of the country, so to speak, in the conference and non-conference schedule. But it's really intriguing, and I would venture to say that there's not many members of the tribe that have been to Montana, and I would say there's not many teams or Bobcats that have been to Virginia either. So it's going to be a huge challenge for, I think, both teams. And people say, well, how do you think we'll do? And I say, hey, you got the final 8 or the elite 8, everybody's good. So everybody can only play 11 guys at a time, and it's about the 11 you got in the huddle.
Mm-hmm. And last week you guys beat Weber State for the second time, so you guys must be excited about that.
Something else I can help with?
Yeah, that was no easy task, to say the least. They have been a perennial power here for the last 4 or 5 years under Jay Hill at Weber State, and you maybe saw some highlights when we played them the first time, but their long snapper for punts had a bad day and sailed 4 of them over their punter's head, and we had 4 safeties, so some sort of record.
Wow. You don't see that a lot in a college football game these days. Wow, I guess you had a bad day.
And I can tell you that collectively the stadium, once he got his first snap, everybody kind of took a deep breath, and actually we're fairly happy for that young man, because it would have been a long bus ride back to Weber.
Exactly. Hey, Adam, you got a question for
Dan? No. You mentioned College Game Day, Dan. What was your initial reaction when you heard that ESPN's College Game Day was going to Bozeman, Montana, for this incredible rivalry you guys have with the University of Montana in Missoula?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I had been to a College Game Day at Notre Dame. My son-in-law coached there for a couple of years, and we were visiting when they were there. So I had a little bit of an idea what it was like, but it wasn't 0 degrees. But it did so much for our campus, our community of Bozeman, the state of Montana, our conference. It was unbelievable, and the billing of the whole situation and the stories they dug out were tremendous, and showed Bozeman and Montana State in a very high light.
That's true. I mean, and like you said, game day was there when it kicked off. It was like -0. Did you have to get Lee Corso away from the desk? Was he frozen?
I give him credit. He hadn't been on for quite a while this fall, and he was there with a stocking cap on and chipper and his old self, and they were giving him all kinds of ribbing back and forth, and I was really glad to see him, because that's not an easy job for anyone, but a guy that has had many years under his belt. That's tough.
Yeah. So looking at William & Mary, they beat Gardner Webb last week. They are the co-champions of the CAA, and I think New Hampshire lost last week as well. Yeah, but they're the last man standing in the CAA. So how tough is the CAA for you guys? Because I know it seems like every year you used to play James Madison in these playoff games. Now it's William & Mary.
Yeah. Well, Coach London, what a professional he is. He's done it at all the levels. And when he was at Richmond, of course, a national championship, and at Virginia, and then back now to William & Mary, he's got his team playing real well. And that's the key at this stage of the season. They score a lot of points, and Montana State scores a lot of points. They average 35.7, and we average 44 a game. Total offense 469, and Montana State averages 514. So there could be a lot of points scored, but the field conditions could, not sure what that's going to be. We had to remove snow last week for the Weber State playoff game, and it got a little bit icy after it cooled off. So it could be a turnover battle. It could be a special teams play here or there, but I guarantee you it's going to be a well fought game by both programs.
Yeah, and getting back to the rivalry you guys have with the University of Montana, there's a huge, I believe the trophy that whoever goes to the winner is over 300 pounds. So tell us about how, tell us what a week is like in Bozeman when Montana comes to face Montana State.
Yeah, it's the 121st game. We didn't play in 2020, but other than that, I think it's the second or third longest rivalry, continuous rivalry west of the Mississippi. You can spend a lot of time talking about it and what it means to everybody. You're either one or the other. There's a lot of families that cross over, and for that week, it's pretty quiet at the dinner table for a lot of people. Interesting enough, I was a member of the football team here at Montana State, and my wife was a cheerleader for the University of Montana. So, hey, if we can make it work, and we've been married, but 33 years or so, anybody can make it work. But it is a very, very heated rivalry. Sometimes it's unhealthy at times, but it's a really heated contest, and fortunately for Montana State, we were able to dominate this year.
Yes, sir. You sure were. You sure were. I watched it here on ESPN Plus here in North Carolina, and I was like, wow, that rivalry is intense up there. And
that's a credit. That's a credit. I'm sorry. That's a credit to our coaching staff. They do such a good job of getting our teams prepared, and it didn't go so well when we played Missoula last year, but Coach Vegan and his staff in their second year made some adjustments and have been so creative and adapting to whatever's in front of them. And hats off to Coach Vegan and his staff. They've done a great job.
You're muted, Chris.
Got it.
Chris, you're muted.
There I go. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I forgot I'd mute myself because I had to make a phone call real quick. But thanks for coming on, and enjoy the game Friday night, 10:15 Eastern time here in the East Coast. And it's on ESPN2?
ESPN2, yes.
Yeah. So everybody who wants to tune in and see if a great game and see how cold it is in Montana, tune in at 10:15. So, Dan, thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week, and happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Same to you guys, and appreciate being on your show. Very good.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, Dan Daves, who is one of the radio sidelines analysts for the Montana State Bobcats. They're going to take on the Tribe of William and Mary on Friday night at 10:15 on ESPN2. So let's bring in this gentleman. He is the PR director of the Holiday Bowl. He's on the phone with us right now, so let me bring him in. Hi, Rick. Thanks for coming on. It's Chris Heidel and Adam here on Herm FM Sports Radio in Baltimore. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, how are you guys doing? What's going on in Baltimore?
Besides the weather and fog, nothing much. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm happy to be with you tonight here from sunny San Diego.
Nice. So talk about this game coming up on the Holiday Bowl. Last year it was we don't want to talk about last year. That's over with.
It's okay. Yeah, it's one of the strangest days of my life.
Yes.
I've never seen like it. We thought we were going to have the game between UCLA and NC State, and about 12:05, I got a text to say, call me. Called somebody I worked with the bowl, and they said the game is not going to happen. So it was very interesting because I think 4 bowl games had been canceled last year because of the issues, and I think ours is the only one that it was canceled. The gates are going to open at 2, and at 12:05 we cancel it. So a lot of disappointed people. You kind of say we went to the altar and didn't get married. So we had a dress rehearsal that we're going to make all work December 28th at 8 o'clock your time on the Fox network. So the big Fox. So with Gus Johnson and Joe Clapp.
Oh, that's cool. And you guys are playing at Pepto Park, and this is the first time playing a football game in basically a baseball style stadium, right?
Exactly. Anybody that's seen Petco Park, been there, watched it on TV during the playoffs. So picture, it fits in there nicely. It's a little tight in one of the end zones. So if you've been to the baseball game, which everybody is obviously with your, Baltimore and all the history of baseball, all the people listening here obviously know baseball. And on the right by the Padre dugout, which is on the first baseline, will be one of the end zones, and then heading, I guess it'd be north in the left center field is where the other end zone will lay out. And so, it's a unique setup. It's been tested. It looks great, but it's a little tight in the end zone. So it's tight to the point where we can't have the photographers shooting in the end zone. So, but it's very safe for the players. It's just tight. That's all.
Yeah. It's almost like Wrigley Field, Rick. Because when Wrigley Field got remodeled, they had that same problem with Northwestern and Illinois. One of the end zones were too short, and they had to switch sides every time they had to punt the ball. So hopefully you guys won't have to do that.
Yeah, no. So did you? I was just thinking of something. Did you say that? Yeah. Didn't they go one way?
Yeah, they went one way. That's all they did. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're fine. We're tested.
That's good.
No, we're good. I mean, we had, we were all, like I said, we were at the altar. We had walkthroughs. We had, the day before, players had been on the turf. Hold on, guys, we're ready to go, referees, and then, like I said, at 12:05, we got the call that one of the teams wasn't going to play. It couldn't play, and so it was interesting. But we're ready for North Carolina and Oregon. It should be a great matchup, and ACC versus Pac-12. So both teams are great. Both teams had interesting seasons. I hope I can get this right. Georgia started and lost. Oregon got beat pretty bad by Georgia and won 9 in a row, and then lost 2 of the last 3. North Carolina, I think, were 9-0 or 9-1 and lost 3 out of the last 4. So if I got that right, the ACC championship game against Clemson, and the thing that's interesting, all the different outlets, whether it's CBS Sports Network or Washington Post, they rank the bowl games, the 41 bowl games, and I believe in the Washington Post bowl game that came, they're of all the 41 games, they predicted ours the 3rd best bowl game of all of them.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think it's just because of the action that hopefully will be there. And then CBS Sports Network, I think, had us the 7th. And then I don't talk about gambling, but the odds makers have our game as the highest over-under number. It's either 73 or 74. So they're expecting a lot of points in the game, which will be fun for the fans.
Right. Exactly. So, like last year, you had that issue with the COVID and all that. Is there anything in place just in case they have the same issue, or are we past that? Because I know
I think the C word, we're way past it.
Okay.
I think we're past
I
the
hope
C
so.
word. So, we're looking forward to it. I think the teams are going to arrive our game is interesting because it's right over. It's the 28th, and so the activities which we do for the players and teams, which we think are the best in college football, they get to go to the zoo. They go to the world famous San Diego Zoo. They go to Sea World. Behind the scenes, behind the scene tours. And then the best thing, I'm sure they do other bowls, but we think ours is the best. They get to go on a Navy ship. So they're going to go on for your listeners, they can look it up. It's the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
So they're going to go on the Abraham Lincoln, and they let the players interact with the sailors. I mean, some of the sailors, the young sailors, are the same age as the players. So, and they go on the flight deck, and they don't fly any planes or shoot any guns or let any bombs go off, but they get to be pretty interactive and see things that they've never seen before, and so it's quite the experience. And then coming to San Diego, some of the players have never seen the ocean. I think this team, Oregon and North Carolina, they're on the east and west coast, so they've seen the ocean, but some kids that haven't. And then our standard line is, whatever you do, don't go to Tijuana. So, and because, I mean, not there's anything wrong with Tijuana. It's great. I've been there many times, but you can get in trouble down there.
Yeah, and and the universities don't need that problem. Yeah.
No one needs the problem. So, because it's only about 20 minutes, 25 minutes from the Mexican border, U.S.-Mexico border, from where they're staying in downtown San Diego. So, but it's and the team's supposed to arrive either the 23rd or 24th, and then it's funny. Like, we'll do the zoo deal or the SeaWorld deal on Christmas Day.
Okay.
And the day after Christmas, we'll go on the ship. So, but it's fun, and that's why they call it the Holiday Bowl.
Exactly. Hey, Adam, you had a question?
Yeah. Now, Rick, so I live in North Carolina, so it's like, so let's talk about these two teams. The Oregon Ducks have a sensational quarterback in Bo Nix, who came from Auburn.
Yep. Bo Nix, and then
Drake May for the University of North Carolina, that sensational freshman.
From North Carolina, isn't he the Player of the Year as a freshman?
Yeah. So do you think it'll be a high scoring game for the Holiday Bowl this year? Because it's one of my favorite games to watch.
I'm just saying, if you look at the point spreads, which I don't get into or talk about, but it's gambling. But if you look at the point spreads, just look them up. Our game is either 72-73 combined scores. So they think the ball's going to be in the air and thrown a lot, and a lot of touchdown passes and rushing. And another thing that's neat is that Mac Brown, the coach of North Carolina, has been to the Holiday Bowl a few times when he brought Texas here. So he's very comfortable with the setting and knows a lot of our people in the organization. And so we're looking forward to seeing Mac Brown again, which would be great.
Yeah, I was just looking at the previous games, here in the Holiday Bowl, and they are pretty high-scoring games. Like,
we've had a national championship game, believe it or not, 1984, Michigan against BYU.
Yes.
We've had the amazing, they go, the greatest games ever played or comebacks, and the BYU SMU game. If your listeners just Google that, see it. I think BYU is down 20-something points with, 6 minutes to go in the game, or some crazy thing. Touched Eric Dickerson was on that team, Craig James, and then at the end of the game, Jim McMahon threw the ball to Clay Brown. He caught it. BYU was way down, and they came back and won the darn thing. And it's one of the all-time great comebacks in college football and sports history.
Exactly.
So we got a lot of history behind it. A lot of great players. I mean, Barry Sanders won the Heisman and played in the game. It's a different era in football now. Who knows if we'd had a team that had the potential Heisman Trophy guy, if he'd play because of the getting injured and everything that's gone on. But we have a lot of tradition, done it for 43 years, and we're hoping for a sellout at Petco Park. It holds 41,000 for a football game, and so it'll be good. And then you guys don't live here. Your listeners aren't from around here, but there's a radio station called KGB here in San Diego, and they've had a sky show where they shoot off fireworks at the Padre games for years. When the stadium used to be at the other stadium, Qualcomm. People have heard of Qualcomm, so they've had 3 Super Bowls at Qualcomm Stadium.
Hey, I remember it as Jack Murphy Stadium because I used to watch a lot of Met games.
Yeah, I remember that too. I remember Jack Murphy Stadium. Tore
it down, and now there's a thing called Snapdragon. Well, we play at Petco, and then after the game, the KGB Sky Show, which they say originated the fireworks to music type format on radio, it had not happened for the last couple of years because of COVID and the location. Well, we've brought it back, and they're going to be part of the Holiday Bowl. So once the game is over, fans are going to be able to watch this amazing sky show fireworks. And what's interesting, you can tell people are interested in it because the way the seating bowl is, the upper level seats normally are they're the least expensive. And those, when we announced it in early November that we were going to have the sky show, as part of the Holiday Bowl. Those seats were sold quickly.
Wow.
And so because people after the game, they got the best seats because the fireworks go up in the air and they got the music, and it's a really fun night. So hopefully we score a lot of points for fireworks on the field and a lot of fireworks with after the game with the Sky Show. So we have an interesting night for people that are going to be in San Diego.
That's true. Well, Rick, let me let you go because I know you have a lot of stuff to do. Thank you so much for taking time.
We're kind of busy here, but I'm glad I could help you and give all my best to everybody in Baltimore.
I will. Thanks, Rick. Have a happy holidays.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye. All right, folks. That's Rick Schlitz, who is the Holiday Bowl PR guy, who was live on the phone. Holiday Bowl between Oregon and North Carolina. It's a staple during the Christmas time of year after Christmas with all these bowl games. It's nonstop. If you have a person who doesn't understand about college football, they should just give you the controller, a bag of chips, and maybe a place to go to the bathroom and come back. I think you don't move until January 9th.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't work for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, Chris, that's all right.
File for unemployment. You'd be good.
Yeah.
Well, this around here is Ravens Steeler Week here in Baltimore, and I had a privilege to talk to a former Steeler offensive tackle, Max Sparks, last night on my Zoom, and asked him about this rivalry because a lot of people, like I said today, I did some research about the rivalry, and I learned a lot about why people in Baltimore don't like Steelers or like people in Pittsburgh. Because also the other thing, Adam, when the Colts picked up in the middle of the night and went to Indianapolis, a lot of old Colt fans changed over to the Steelers. Because they wanted the Steelers to kick the crap out of the Colts. So, and then when the Ravens came back into play, they stayed with their alliance with the Steelers, and that's why you have the rivalry. Yeah. So let me play the interview I had with Max Sparks from last night, and hope you enjoy it. Here it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's Ravens Steeler Week. We have Max Starks, who used to play for the Steelers back in the day in 2004, and he was part of this rivalry between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So, Max, thanks for joining us. Any fond memories between this Baltimore-Pittsburgh week? No matter what with the records, it doesn't matter if one team is doing well and the other team is not.
Yeah, hey, just throw records out of the window, Chris. I mean, this is Pittsburgh, West Virginia. This is backyard brawl, as close as you're going to get to a college rivalry at the NFL level. And it is, we don't like them, they don't like us, and it shows on the field between the two teams. And you asked about a favorite memory. Well, I'm a Steeler, so I would have to go with the 08-09 season, the three-peater sweep, 2 times in the regular season and once in the AFC Championship game, as the fondest of fond memories, when I look back on the rivalry. But I mean, there were some great moments outside of those.
Yeah, and you come from college, you come from Florida, so you're used to rivalries. Yeah, with the Gators and Seminoles, so you're used to it.
Oh yeah, Gators, Seminoles, Florida, Georgia. I'm used to those border rivalries. So I did not expect to have that in the NFL when I was drafted to the Steelers. I didn't understand that history until I got there, and it made very clear sense. Week 2 of the season, when we came down there, my rookie year, that was the first game I'd ever traveled to. I'm still wet behind the ears, and we come to Baltimore. Tommy Maddox gets knocked out, and then therefore the Ben or number 7 era begins because of that unfortunate hit that Tommy takes, which puts Ben into the game, and then, well, as we know, 18 years later, history was written.
Yeah. And it seems like just like this year with there's no Ben around. Now you got Pickett as quarterback, and everybody's like, what happened to Ben? Where's Ben? We need Ben.
Yeah, especially in fourth quarters. You're looking around, okay, Ben's going to come and just save the day. And it's like, no, he's retired. He's in school pickup line right now, or, he's doing something. He's occupied. So it's something that, as you go through the growing pains with a new young quarterback, those are kind of some of the things you just kind of have to deal with, is that they don't know what they don't know. They lack the experience to be able to give you those moments because they haven't seen the things that they're going to see before, whereas you have a seasoned veteran who's seen it all, so he can go into the memory banks and bring out, some of those experiences and use that to help him.
Yeah. Well, I know I know you don't start previewing this game until later in the week, because I know you do your homework probably Wednesday, Thursday. We do our show on Tuesday. But, looking at, you like you said, the records, 5-7 for the Steelers. The Ravens are 8-4, but they just lost Lamar Jackson. It seems like just like last year at this time, the Steelers are knocking on the door, and then you have Lamar Jackson, who got injured, and you got, Hundley back in this quarterback. It sounds like the same repeat.
It absolutely does, because I think the biggest thing that you see is that, Tyler Huntley's back at the quarterback position again. Lamar Jackson has been injured. It reminds me of that last game of the season last year. Terrible wet weather. And, you're asking Tyler Huntley to step in and get you in to the playoffs in a situation where you have a team that's grasping to try and create that opportunity. And I think that's what's pretty funny, that parallel, just this time the venue changes. We're not down there at M&T, we're in Acrisure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really very, very interesting. So if you look at it, I know you're going to get ready for your preparation, but it should be a close game, because all these games are always end up in like 3 points or less.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what rivalry should be, right? We know you so well, you know us so well, and the schematics that we're going to have is going to yield, a stalemate for all intents and purposes. And then something fantastic must happen to elevate either team. And I think there are players on both sides who can bring that type of magic. The question will be, when and if they do it, and make sure, just like watching the Fast and the Furious movie, right? Don't hit the NOS switch too soon. You got to save that for the end, for the last quarter mile.
Right, exactly. Well, let me let you go, because I know you're busy with your kids, and I appreciate you taking some time tonight. I know you're a busy guy. You do the sideline reporting for Bill, Bill up there in Pittsburgh. Bill's a great guy. Bill Grove, he does a great job. Any stories about him, real quick? Cool stories.
Bill, I'll never. So the most recent one. So Bill had his 82nd birthday during one of our games, and he comes up. We're trying to surprise him with a cake. And we're trying to get everybody in this room and try and act nonchalant. And he just kind of looks around. He's like, what? You act like this is a milestone or something. I just turned 28. Oh, by the way, did I mention I'm dyslexic? I was like, so we all just burst out laughing. I mean, he knows how to feel the room out, to cut the tension, and really provide lighthearted remarks to make everybody feel comfortable. And that's what I love about Bill. He's always been like that for me, even when I was a player to even now as a colleague. He's one of those guys. He's never short on words, and he is perfect for radio.
That's awesome. Well, Max, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your week. And hopefully Sunday is going to be another classic game.
Absolutely, Chris. You take care and have a great week as well.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let me see. All right, folks, that's Matt Starks, former Steeler offensive tackle, part of the Steelers radio network, your sideline reporter. So, it's going to be interesting. We'll see how that works out this week between the Ravens and Steelers. Who's, Huntley's now the quarterback, and Pickett, who was with the Panthers last year this time last year. So it's going to be really interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's called when the Ravens and Steelers get together, like you said, you throw the records out. It's like, it's full bore. It don't matter. It's called It's Hardcore. And Max brought out the backyard brawl between Pittsburgh and West Virginia. Gotta agree with them, Chris. I mean, this rivalry always goes down to the very last moment. You never can blink.
Right, exactly. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's on CBS at 1 o'clock. Ravens Steelers. So we're going to wrap up the show here. I had a chance to last interview I did this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I talked to Chris Naki of the Maryland Terrapins Radio Network. They're going to be tipping off in 8 minutes out there in Madison, Wisconsin, snowy Madison, Wisconsin. So hopefully they can get it back and and home and being safe there. The tip-off is going to be on ESPN2 at 9 o'clock. So I had a chance to talk to Chris Nockey about Maryland taking on a Wisconsin team who's 6-2. Maryland is ranked 13th in the country, 8-0. And let's play the interview I had with him this afternoon, and we'll talk a little more after this.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, folks, I'm here with Chris Nockey. Tonight he'll be on the call for Maryland versus Wisconsin. You can listen to that game here in Baltimore on 105.7 at 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. So, Chris, you just got back done with the shoot-around. What does people look like during the shoot-around with this trip to Wisconsin?
Well, I mean, they're focused. They're ready to play. The team is feeling, pretty good about itself, getting off to an 8-0 start. I think, too, that they've got enough guys who are returning, guys who have been here or played against Wisconsin that know this is a tough game. It always is. And this is a particularly tough place to play. So I expect it's going to be, a night that'll go down to the last 5 minutes, I would think.
It's fascinating. A year ago, you and I were down at College Park with that Mark Turgeon situation. It's pretty funny. A year later, now 8-0 and 13th in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how it turned around. Kind of shows you sometimes what a a different voice can mean. It also shows you, too, that in college basketball, it seems like the top 50 or 60 teams or so, there's just not that much difference between them all. You can, with a little solidarity and some talent, you can leapfrog some teams and make a name for yourself.
Yeah. What do you think about Coach Willard? Do you think he's pretty good? A bright man at the right time?
Oh, certainly early returns are very positive. He's got a really good feel for this group. More importantly, or just as importantly, they really respond to him. So, the focus is really for him has largely been on the defensive end. I'm really surprised at how the strides they've made offensively, because in the first 2 or 3 games of the season, they had a lot of lulls in those games. And since then, they've been much better, even up in Connecticut, where they averaged about 90 points a game up there in that 2-team tournament. They did have some lulls against Illinois, but I think that speaks to Illinois' length. And, that's a good basketball team that the Terps beat on Friday night. So you're going to have some lulls against a team like that.
It seems like they're not taking a lot of 3-pointers, because last year they struggled last year with the 3-pointers. Because I know a couple games I've been to with you guys, they couldn't hit a 3-pointer of the size of the barn. Now they seem like they're doing a little bit better, a little bit here and there.
Well, part of that is having guys who can make the shot. They've always had Dante Scott's always been a pretty good 3-point shooter. He's great as a freshman. Fell off a little bit since then, but Jameer Young has done a really good job. Donald Carey has been really good on the road, not so much at home. And Hakeem Hart has just been really, really solid. He was a difference maker against Illinois. I think that really kind of one of the interesting things is that Kevin Willard really as a coach doesn't really quibble so much about the shooting, the shot selection, the 3-point shots. He really is more focused on the defensive end. Offensively, he lets his guys play a lot. And it's worked after 8 games. You're unblemished. So you got to love that part of it. Sure.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Willard on Sunday. I said, "This is your first time being 8-0," and he goes, "Have you ever been 8-0 in your career?" And he goes, "I don't think so."
Yeah,
I've never been. Yeah. I've never. I can't remember it. So
yeah, I think that you'd remember it if you had been, for sure.
Yeah, and then I asked him about, this is your first trip to Wisconsin. And I said, "Do you have anything to fall back on?" Because I know you were in the Big East, because the Big East is a different breed than the Big Ten. And he goes, "Well, Wichita State is the loudest place I coached last year, so maybe I could use that for a carryover to this Wisconsin thing."
Well, he also, he loves this area. He was telling me a story last night. Of course, in the Big East, they would play Marquette every year.
Mm-hmm.
And Marquette's not very far away at all. Of course, it's much more of an urban school, and it's in Milwaukee. But he told me about how much he loved this area and how much he loved going to Milwaukee. He said he's actually vacationed in Milwaukee. It's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that. But talked about jazz clubs and how nice the waterfront is there, and so he's familiar somewhat.
Yeah,
with
a lot of people go to Milwaukee, see the Brewers, and go back home. That's all they do.
Yeah. Yeah, grab a Schlitz and hit the road, right?
Exactly. It doesn't get easier after tonight. You got Tennessee and UCLA next Wednesday night.
Yeah, and my phone is ringing off the hook about tickets for UCLA, and the first 3 games I really couldn't even give them away, so it's exciting. But I mean, it's success can be really fleeting here, Chris. I'd like that, so I'm going to choose to focus, and I think these guys are doing the same. Choose to focus just on what lies ahead tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out logistics about going to New York. Do you go Friday? Do you go Saturday? We'll figure that stuff out. And then UCLA on the other side of that, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I think that as you approach the season, you looked at this 4-game stretch that started with Illinois. You got Illinois, Wisconsin, Tennessee, UCLA, and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, if there's some way you could get to 2-2 out of that, that's fantastic, right? Now all of a sudden you're 1-0, and we're all greedy. And now you start to think, gosh, you know what? Is there a chance we can win 3 out of the 4 of these? Well, you can't probably do that unless you win this game tonight. So we'll just concentrate on the Badgers.
Right, exactly. And then you worry about the SEC on Sunday, and then you worry about the Pac-12 on Wednesday. That's a good way of saying it. So. Well, I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon, and enjoy the broadcast with Johnny Holiday. You guys have a good time, doing the games together, and he's probably happy he's back doing basketball with you guys.
Yeah, he is. He had to miss the game last week against Louisville, but he's back, and we're all looking forward to the opportunity tonight and for the weeks ahead. Should be fun. Hopefully,
yes. I hope to see you next Wednesday for the UCLA game. Hopefully,
awesome. Yeah. I'll see you there, Chris.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let me hit. All right, that's Chris Naki. You can listen to if you're here in Baltimore, and he's on right now on 105.7 FM. The Fan. Maryland taking on Wisconsin at 9:00 on ESPN2. So, well, Adam, great show tonight. We covered everything from. I think we covered every sport in the world.
And
now we have to do is we have to get a NASCAR driver. That should be the next one we should do. We already did a fisherman. We have Mike Iaconelli. We appreciate him coming on tonight. Chris Prefer coming on tonight. It was great to have talk some bowling. Also some local people in my neck of the woods. Scott Wyckoff, the busiest guy in the world who does a lot of local.
Scott's yeah.
So we got a program reminder next Monday. Yes, folks. Next Monday, we have to be on the air next Monday because we got some great. Next week is going to be a great way of sports around here. Let me bring this up here if I find it. Yeah, next Monday night at 7:00, Adam and I will be on. Special Monday night at 7. We'll talk. We'll talk some more bowl games. We'll talk some. We'll recap Maryland women's basketball, take on the Lady UConn, the Huskies, down in College Park, who hopefully could. Take a ride down there and watch the game on Sunday. That'll be fun. And then we'll also try to preview the UCLA game against Maryland on Wednesday night at 9:00. Plus, we'll get ourselves our friend George Bashira. He is in Arizona right now, singing Glenn Campbell. By the time I get to Phoenix, we'll be rising. He's back. He won't be on until probably before Christmas. So we'll talk about that as well. That's next Monday night at 7. Meantime, before we go, on this date in 2014, Florida State beat Georgia State, and I was there at that game.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yes, and I was very upset on the sideline at the end of the game. We got called for a pass interference call. I'm like, really? And some guy looked at me and goes, "You're going to the Orange Bowl anyway." I'm like, yeah, And then another one on this date in 1975, Paul Simon had the #1 album. It was still crazy after all these years.
Yeah,
he's still crazy after all.
Yeah, he is. And also, Chris, yesterday we lost a very great actress in Kirstie Alley. She died of cancer, and I remember her from the TV show Cheers. That was one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. So when I heard the news, I was like.
Yeah.
If you've never heard the Cheers theme song, you gotta go listen to it. I mean, mean, I remember that show like it was the back of my hand. It was one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. And also, Chris, Annapolis soccer starts next year. It's going to be cool to see.
We'll try to get Fred back on after the holidays and see how he's doing with the building a franchise, and we'll talk more about that. If you want to email the show, folks, email us at herbertfmradio@gmail.com. If you have any questions, requests, or anything, we appreciate you folks for joining us. We'll see you next Monday night at 7:00. Until then, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one.
Take it easy, everybody. We'll see you next Monday.
Mm-hmm.